presentation.
Yes, Tabi Masai. Witsoden etsen salexpuyu no Denise Hegwana and Sakose Aldesana. Saiso Sakose Westes. Saiso Nita Uzi. Sandra Martin Harris. Gittin Max at Wistai. Gitsan Lakiep. I'm a guest here and living in Gitsan territories in Northwest DC, Hazelton. And Honest Eye, no Tanasia. And that means I'm happy to be here. It's so good to see you all in this implementation of our CCP, and good to be here on this cool, rainy, wet fall day, Takat fall day. And I'm pleased to share some ideas around implementation of your community plan. And as we've heard already this morning, as soon as we start this formal planning process, implementation is already starting because you're starting to shift how you do your work in your community, how you do your business, and so implementation starts just right there because you're reaching out to people, you're creating a movement, you're creating some like-mindedness with your people, your youth, your elders, your speakers, your hunters, your gatherers, your knowledge keepers, your technicians, which there's many. And so you're trying to get this group together to talk about your community plan and this idea of planning, which is an ancient old skill, as you heard Justy this morning share. And we do planning every day, and so this is not new to our. And so we want to recognize that that's important. Our grandmothers, our elders, many people plan every day to take care of our homes, to take care of our families and our community and nation on the land. So there's so many good stories there to help us understand and formalize this idea of community planning and nation planning, which is another layer of planning. And so I've done both watershed Yinta planning, land use planning for resources on the territory to better manage them so that we have good water, healthy resources for generations to come, but also in our communities are healthy and safe and connected to the land for our own well-being. Yeah, so I just have a question for you. It's a silly question. Is it pumpkin spice latte or apple cider that you like in the fall? You can type that in the chat if you like pumpkin spice latte or apple cider. And I got lots of silly questions for you during this session. My favorite season is fall time tacket, like I said. And I love the sweaters and the colors of the land. And neither, okay, type in what you like. Thank you. Yeah, might be a tea. Yeah, chai latte. Yeah, wonderful. Cider, don't do pumpkin, both. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, wonderful. It's those warm beverages that keep us toasty. I just moved into a big old house. I feel like I'm in a mansion here in Hazelton, and it's a little chilly here. There's so many windows. Hot chocolate, yeah, Mexican spicy hot chocolate. And so I find hot beverages, which is so good for you. Hot chocolate, green tea latte. I need to explore. Okay, yeah, check them out. Thank you for being silly with me for a moment. So let's get back to the
Hi, Sandra. Are you still there? Sandra, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but a quick remedy for you there. On our screen, you're frozen. You might want to try turning off your video for a second and seeing how that. Oh, there you are. Okay, awesome.
Sorry about that. Am I back on there?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so hopefully I don't drop again. Yeah, so now you have a plan. We're going to start looking. You might have a document that you've talked to your people, like I said earlier, your technicians, your wise ones, your innovators, our young people in the community, and they've shared what they dream and want to see in um, where you live. And so now you've got some maybe 50 ideas on how to move forward. And so now what do you do? And we'll just get the presentation shared. And so that's a lot of work to get to that place. Hey, yeah. And so now what? Now what do we do with all these great ideas and the brilliant sharing? And this is one of the most important parts of our plan, listening to our people. And this is where we lift up the strengths of our people. So now we've done that, we've listened, we've heard, we know what the priorities are. There might be some uncomfortable dialogue sessions around community safety that we need to listen to. How do we have sustainable livelihoods? Might even be an uncomfortable discussion if we're trying to balance out traditional harvesting practices with more sustainable practices. So there might be lots of rubs there. And so we're doing our best to listen to everyone because every voice matters. Okay, the next slide. So welcome, we do a Yintana. We always do the Yintana to recognize the land, the life-giving forces that we live, play, and work in. We have this something called a collective agreement that I learned from Gwen Phillips. It's a beautiful thing, how we come together in a space. And we'll go over that quickly. And there are Indigenous ways in upholding our stories, recognizing the strengths of our people, which helps us feel whole and strong and confident, and the ability to move forward, to grow healthy and whole as a person, as a family, as a clan, as a community, and as a nation. And so those are the things, those strengths are the ways that help us be whole and strong. And that's also those strengths, those ways that hold us up so that we can get through trouble like we are right now with this pandemic here in northern BC. The numbers are just astronomical and flying people all over BC because the hospitals are full. Emergency rooms are shut down because they just can't deal with the capacity. And so that's a frightening place to be in. So just to help to take care of the trouble, that's what I call trouble, all the different challenges we have in our daily lives. Okay, so next slide. So we move into this thing called a collective agreement. How are we going to be together in a space, in a circle here? And this is what I like to do when facilitating. We do this, it's like the ground rules, but it's a little more Indigenous friendly. How do we come together in a space and share and listen? So we have as a fundamental premise of wakos, or respect, we come together with our kindness and our compassion. It's okay to laugh and share. Wherever you find our people, there will be laughter. And that's such a healing experience for us. We speak one person at a time. We be lean, so we give everyone a chance to speak. And we always acknowledge the land, the Yinta, that's the nod. We acknowledge our Notsadetni, our ancestors, because they've created a pathway for us to be here. And they had sacrificed so much so that we could be here in each one of our families. Even though we might not know our family, we know that they did a lot because we're here. And so as we learn more and more about our history and our ancestors, it's important that we recognize and send back love to them because they are with us, I believe, every day and helping us and guiding us. And so it's okay and needed for us to give back love to them for all that they've done. And then something called microaggressions. Sometimes we're in meetings, people disagree and they might snap their eyes. They might sigh, they make a big sigh, and those are called microaggressions, and they're a form of lateral violence. And so we want to minimize that. We want everyone to feel safe, that it's okay to share and listen. And in my home community, they call it Morristown eyes. No Morristown eyes. And so we come together and we spend like 10 minutes. How are we going to be in a space? And so there's an example there of how we do this. Because we're trying to build up trust. We're building up consensus in our decision making. And so those are some of the features. We listen. My grandfather, as many of you heard me say, my grandfather told me I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And another elder said, and actually you have a 3rd ear in your heart. And so we listen, we sit beside people and we listen like our elders, our old ones have taught us. And that's one of the most important things. And so now we've done all of that. We have this collective agreement. What do we do if people don't follow the agreement? You can maybe tap in there. What do you do if people don't follow the rules or don't follow the agreement of how we're going to be together? What can we do? You want to type in the chat there. Yeah, we could stand up and say, we could just say, hey, we've agreed to be here in this space together. Yeah, thank you, Rasika. I'm sorry, I'm not saying your name right. Yeah, thank you. What else could we do? Yeah, we could just check in with them. We might pull them aside. Yeah, thank you. That's important that we do that. It's one thing to make the rules, and how are we going to live up to them too? Hey, yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So the next slide. You've seen this morning. I love this diagram. I'm all about spirals. Spirals are a sacred figure in our history. It reflects so many features of our Indigenous ways. There's the spiral, connects us to seasonality, connects us to the seasons, to the life cycles, connects us to reflection, and a deeper understanding. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So these are the 4 steps that we have in the big planning process. So now you've engaged in your pre-planning, you've got community ready, we're going to do this work. You've done the engagement, talking to people, finding out what our needs are, our wishes and dreams. We've done the on the land healing experiences, sitting around the fire, having a tea, youth camps, elder camps, and maybe elder and youth camps. And so now we're moving into implementation. Now we have this plan. Now the action, the steps are required to help us move forward. And so we begin with the end in mind. And then the next part is the monitoring and evaluation, which again is kind of an ongoing role. All right, thank you. Next slide. I'll slow down a little bit here. I think I'm talking a little fast. Okay, so one of the most beautiful teachings we have in our Indigenous communities is a figure called Trickster. And I believe every Indigenous community has a Trickster figurine. And this figure helps us learn and remember about change and the idea of adapting. And so the Trickster helps us to remember how to work through trouble, how to dream for the future. And they teach us about warnings, about laughter, being absurd, consequences of actions. And so the figures that show up are Raven, we get here in Gitxsan territory, Coyote down in the interior. And in our Wet'suwet'en clan system in our nation, we have a Stace, and he's a big man. And so a Trickster is a good way to help us remember about change. Because sometimes when there's change looming, people are resistant to change. it's important for us to remember that change and adaptation and transformation are a very key part of our Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing. So yeah, do you happen to know the name of your trickster? And please type that in the chat. Or the figurine, if you don't know the name, maybe the figure that it is. Coyote, yeah. Simply, oh, sweet. Thank you. Simply, yes. Nick, yep. Thank you. Raven, yeah. Trickster for Fuzz impersonation is the coyote, yes. Thank you, Messiah, for sharing, Shelley. Yeah, and so these are sacred beings that we have in our stories, in our mythologies or legends, some people would say. In our story, Trickster is there to remind us about change, and that change is important. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Thanks for sharing. And so that idea of change or transformation is the theme that we're going to kind of pick up here, because we're talking about action. We're wanting to do something new or different. And sometimes that's uncomfortable for people who might have always done it this way. And so it's a bit scary to step forward and say, okay, we're going to try something new. And so our people said, this is what we want. This is what they said about governance. So this is what we're going to do. This is what they said about housing. So this is what we're going to do. And so that's a bit scary to take that step forward. But it's important. The action. There might be something called quick starts in there. Yeah. Let's see what Masika said. That's right. Thank you. Mystical, supernatural creatures remind us of future. They sure do. And as Indigenous people, we're kind of timeless. We have the past coming forward, we have the now, and we have the future. And so our transformation is about all those different times and how beautiful that is. Hey, yeah, and that's part of our strength to help us grow and move forward in a good, healthy way. Okay, so now we have this community plan. And so what does it say? So it's important for you to know what the community plan says, because your people are going to ask, well, we said this about the plan. We have like 40 ideas, and now what? How does it get into action? How do you transform it? How do you breathe life into it? Yeah, to be clever. Absolutely. And so I like to put all the goals in a one pager. And so to make it look one pager with the community vision, and I share that with leadership and with all the local services, so they know in the next 5 years or 10 years, these are the big goals that we have, and they can see where they fit in. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. And then we can figure out, well, which ones do we start with first? And hopefully there's the planning team that you've had along your process is now going to move into the implementation team. They're going to move into the action. Yeah, and what's best? Where do we start? Okay, let's go next. And so we want to help prepare our team so that they might be small and mighty, and so that they're comfortable with change, they're comfortable with moving forward, and they have the skills and the support they need to move forward. And so they understand the budgeting process. So your finance people need to be on board. How are the local services linking priorities of the plan? And that's probably one of the most critical steps. because we have existing programs and services. And if we link them into the community plan, this is what our people want and see as most important. And if we make that link, then we're showing that we heard you, we listened, and now we're moving forward because this is what you said. And this is most important. Okay, the next slide. And so this is about integration. This is about breaking those silos down in the community. So we have health and education working together, social development, housing, lands and resources, governance. And this is probably one of the hardest things to do. So this is the big step of moving forward together, and can be so hard. And in BC, we have much smaller communities, so it might be the same people wearing different hats. In other nations, the offices are much larger, and so it's a little bit harder to get people to move together. And so regular meetings, meeting, is so important, and communications in that in a good, kind way. So you could do it by theme, you could do it quarterly. But this is one of the most important parts of our planning, is this part right now. How are we going to work together to make this happen? Because our people said this is the most important thing. So we want to honor what they said. And this is important for leadership, for service providers, because we're trying to build up trust. We're building up consensus that this is where we want to go. And they said, do this. So we did this together. And look at the change that happened. Something improved. Something is better or different. And how wonderful that feels when we're on the right track there. Yeah. And so when we are integrated, when we are holistic, when we have healthy people, healthy land, healthy community, then our resilience naturally comes forward. And how wonderful that is. Okay. Yeah, just type in any questions that you might have in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. And so the doing part is the next slide. So we want to make sure that the same process of engaging our people, we want to make sure all these people are aware, and they have a role. They have a role to help us move forward. So we have our family heads, we have our leadership, there's elders, grandmothers. We want to breathe life into these strengths of our culture, because culture connects us to the sacred. Culture connects us to our life-giving laws, our sacred laws, our language, and our homelands. And the more connection we have and taking good care there, the more resilience we have in our communities. And so, like the Trickster is helping us figure that all out. And so that's important. Yeah. And so if we ask people to take part and give us their wishes and dreams, and we figured out the goals, this is what you said. So this is what we did. This was the service we built, more single unit housing. We created a new public service or public works building. We have a new community market. We've done some work around women's healing and men's wellness. So we offered these services in the last year. Now, how did it go? What did you think? Did we meet the mark? Yeah, and so that regular checking in, how are we doing, is just as important and as part of our implementation. Okay, next slide. So one of my favorite plans that I just love, even though it's a massive plan, is the Pekanjikam Health Plan. And Thuringia community planners did this work. And they have a really big section in there around how to keep your plan alive. Because as many of you might have experienced, there's lots of planning, and then the plan just gets put on the shelf and we have no idea what it says. Hey, how to take it and move it, bring it to life. It's really challenging, especially if we have changing staff, changing leadership, it's quite easy to lose those plans, the land use plan, education plan, the health plan. Yeah. So how do we keep it alive? And so celebrate with your people, have a dinner, or if we can't come together, send out little care packages, thanking our people. Your voice is important. And this is what we heard you say. And then this month, this is what we did. What do you think? And that's helping keep it alive. And the CCP coordinator position, or however the term you use for your planner, is one of the most important roles in all of this work. And sadly, it's not often funded on a consistent basis. So as we learn, as we take more of an Indigenous trauma-informed approach to our work, we know that building up trust is one of our biggest challenges with our people, because we don't trust systems. And there's good reason for that, because systems have harmed our people from colonization and oppression. So when services show up and we haven't had any input into creating that service, we don't necessarily trust them. And we know that it takes about 3 to 5 years for a new service to gain the trust of the people. And so just think about that. How many of you have services that have been available for 3 to 5 years for that one person to be there that long? And that's a big challenge for our communities, because we don't necessarily have that capacity to do that. We don't have the funding. And so this is important for funders to know that we need the funding for 3 to 5 years to help build the trust, to help us move forward, to grow according to what our people have said. And so that's very important. And so again, the coming together, the collaboration, the working together is another important feature. And does anybody have regular interagency meetings? I can just type yes in there or no. This again is another feature of successful implementation, is that collaboration, breaking down silos. Wonderful, wonderful. Yay, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. Yeah, this is, and again, this is one of the most important things. Okay, so I strongly encourage you to help get those agencies working together for our people, because we're all working to serve the same people. And that's one of the things our people said is, I don't want to be running around to 5 different offices to get my needs met. You need to be working better together. And that was a tough message to get to that place. Yeah, that's wonderful, Janine. I'm happy to hear that. And so that's a best practice or a wise practice. And the collaboration, the working together is like a synergy. Hey, and how good that is when we're on the right track. Hey, that feels so good that we can do that. And that's so that's very good. So a pat on the back for that. I'm so happy. Another thing is around the communications. If we asked our people to get involved, then we want to report back how that went. And so that's the continual checking in. They call that an iterative process or a community development process. And so we continually check in. So we did this. What do you think? Yeah, that was great. I loved it. Can we do it again? Or can we go a little bit deeper into that topic? Yeah, at a planning blog. Yeah, or a podcast, whatever works, whatever communication tools. Yeah, so what communication tools are you offering? A newsletter. Yes, thank you, Rasika. At a blog. Yeah, a Facebook page, TikTok, shares small success stories. Absolutely. Because if you don't say anything, people are going to assume you're doing nothing. And if you're doing nothing, then they might get upset. Hey, yeah, because we kind of think the worst, think the negative, and that's normal. That's human nature. And so we want doing this. If we're having challenges in getting things rolled out, just to share that, you know, we've been working on this for a while and we're having some challenges, but we hope to get it done soon, and maybe share a win. Yeah, share your small projects. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. When people see they said something, we want to have a community garden, you know, and the next thing, the health center or the school created a community garden. They're like, wow, you listened. And they were able to get fresh veggies or fruit. And so building up those successes is so important, so people can see, yeah, they're serious about change, and report that back. Okay, thank you for sharing. So let's go to the next slide. So change management, we're lifting up and honoring the trickster transformer ways of us to help us move forward, to grow in a healthy way. And so we want all our project leaders, our leadership, to understand the community development approach is about a community-led process. So all voices are heard, we listen. If we have a project and we have 5 deliverables, know what those 5 deliverables are and how they link back to the plan. So if I have a housing budget and I want to build 5 homes this year, and the community plan suggests that we need more plans for more housing for single men, and I check my housing plan to make sure I have housing in there for single men. If not, is there a way for me to amend that so my housing plan links up to the community plan? And then I can build one for all 5. And so that links back to the plan. Of course, there's a lot of dynamics there in that decision making, but you're listening to the people. They said this is what's most important. And so you're doing your darndest to make sure that what you do lines up with that plan. And that's what community development is. That's how we move forward. And as my friend Richard Sampson says, our people are brilliant. They have solutions, they have dreams and ideas. And so we want to listen and help lift those up as a collective. And listening and holding up the strengths of our people, sitting with our elders and their wisdom, the youth and children wisdom. Yeah. And so you're building a collective here. And this is probably one of the most difficult things in our work, is that the individuality of our community is taking over in many places. And so I have something here called the nested approach. And so there's there's me here in the bottom circle in the orange. The next circle around me is my family, my mother's family, my father's family, and our clan and house system. There's our family and friends, our larger circle. Then there's my village, my community where I live. And there's so many features there that I want to have some safety. I want to have lighting. I want to have less dogs chasing me down the street. I want to have a language program in my school. I want the elders to be there. You know, this is what people are sharing. And then on the land in the Yintana, we want to have sustainable resource development. We want to have healthy water. We want to take care of the resources. We want to have enough salmon. There might even be a climate change aspect to that in some communities. And so the more connected we are in each one of these circles, the more resilient we are as a people. We are a collective. And so that's where the healing comes in, to notice these connections, that we're not alone, that our ancestors are here and the creator is here. And so our wellness, this is like a wellness model. And so it's a simple way of seeing how we're all connected. And so services in the village and community might not be connected to the resource development on the land, but we need our people to be skilled and trained to do that work. So we need to have the the HR or the education discussion or dialogue around that. Recognizing the gifts of our young people, gifts of our people, the teachers, the doctors, the language speakers, the youth workers. Yeah, and so how do we all fit in here? It's not just the community and it's not just the land, it's an integrated holistic approach. And so my personal wellness comes from this, my family wellness comes from this, my community and village wellness, well-being comes from here, and certainly the land does too. And so when we're planning, if we can see where we all fit in, it's so important. It's not a this or that, it's a holistic oneness approach. So I hope that makes sense. All right. So let's go to the next slide. And so pulling forward those aspects of resilience, the strengths of our people, our speakers, they might have insight into cultural revitalization and how do we get into our formal public school system, but also how do we do land-based learning? How do we get out on the territory? Who needs to be involved? What does sustainability mean in our community according to our laws and our land? And what does Trickster have to say about that? Because there's a lot of story there about what happens when we break laws, but also what happens when we live up to our laws. Yeah, and that healing and that wholeness comes to be. And so the more connection, the more alignment we have in these big program areas, the more quicker, is that how we say it? The quicker we're able to move and grow as a people and as a community. And so these are some of the work that I've been blessed to be a part of, working on the land, about taking care of the water, talking to our people about why is water so important to our people. Healthy drinking water, water that's good for our fish, and for the bears, to remember our sacred responsibilities to take care of the water and what does that mean. Water conservation, sustainable food harvesting practices, food security, so much comes up with that. Just that one element of water that it connects us all in a watershed. So people downriver or upriver. So there's even a larger planning piece that might kick in. I work with missing and Indigenous murdered women. And so what does women's safety look like in our communities? Having those courageous conversations around anti-violence or strength of our people, and being out on the land, being around the fire, and how good that is to do that in our backyards or down by the river or on the mountain, and how that's helpful just to sit around the fire with elders and listen, and they listen to us too as young people, what our worries are, and how that connection is so important and helps us. And then there's my friend who does art therapy. And so I'm learning about art therapy and how art is such a healer and helper for us to move through stress and find our wellness. And so that's another strength, a resilient aspect of our people is our art and our creativeness. And so that's another way to engage our people and to share. And so here's a grandfather stone painting of an owl. And again, our animal relatives are helpers. They help us see so many things about ourselves, but about our larger connection to life and land. And so finding our wellness, our strengths, how we hold each other up through trouble, especially now with the pandemic, we can see how helpful art is, how helpful it is to be on the land, just to be there, and how our foods nourish our body. And we're learning so much more about how our natural gut health, and we have a lot of stress, it puts a lot of stress on our body, and our traditional foods has been so helpful in creating a healthy gut. which creates our body to feel better, and it's less inflammation. And when we have a lot of inflammation from unhealthy foods, that actually helps, that could actually promote depression and anxiety. So when we're on the land gathering food, we're preparing and eating our own food with our elders, with their men and women. There's so much goodness that comes from there, and how that the outcome of eating our own food is actually so good for us in so many ways. And so just the event of going out and being together is helpful, is healing in itself, but it's actually biologically and physiologically so good for us too. Okay, and so the last slide there is just a contact information and some resources to be shared. Yeah. Harmony and sharing. Yes. Thank you, Rosita. So I have another question for you. What's your favorite clothing? Is it sweater or flannel PJs? Sweaters. Maybe it's both, eh? If it's cold. Yeah, sweaters. Yeah. Sweater. Yeah. Sweaters. Yeah. Flannel. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. A nice warm jacket. Okay. So that's the scenery. Yeah. And so just to have a few minutes here to answer any questions about implementation, about action, about how do we move forward, how do we grow, how do we lift up the plan, how do we work together. Yeah, and building on the successes we have, because there's always something there, there's some strength there we can find and lift up. Okay, so we could stop the share, or stop sharing. Yeah, and if there's anything there you have a question about, please type in the chat and I'll do my best to answer. Yes, the slide will be shared. It'll be posted up on the Facebook Comprehensive Community Planning page and on the website. Yeah, you're welcome, Rasika. And thank you for all your input. Lots of wisdom there. Yeah, we talked a little bit about quick starts. Does anybody have some quick starts that they would like to share that they love doing in their community? If you had a chance to do that, what are some of the quick start projects you were part of? Yeah, you're welcome, Joyce. I talked about community garden as a quick start. Talked about another one I was part of was an elders session, having elders come together. And they would come together once a month to be together. Of course, we can't do that now, but we can still do it online and help to create the sense of connection, because so many of the elders are lonely right now. And so that was a fun way to help them come together. And we played bingo online. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, some other quick starts, medicine picking. We started an Ovaria food bank called Granny's Kitchen. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Community info posting board. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, community garden, wonderful. Look at all these amazing things that happened when we listen to our people. Hey, yeah, we find solutions, we find ways. Thank you for sharing. I love the Granny's Kitchen, the medicine picking, so wonderful. Yeah, anything else there? How about working with youth? Have you had a chance to do some work with youth, and what have been your successes there? Or you might hear my dog howling when the sirens go. He starts to howl, so you might hear him in the background here. Yeah. What kind of youth projects have you been working on? Youth culture camp? Yeah. Thank you, Megan. And is that year round or once a year? Oh, a monthly walking program, 50 kilometers in 1 month and 100 in 1 month. Incentive was plant books. Wow, that's wonderful. Community check-in where members give updates. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, look at the good things that are already happening. Hey, video game night with youth. Yeah, we played Minecraft to build their dream community. Oh, cool. That's so cool. That would be fun to share, Cliff. We started a mentorship program that focuses on harvesting for our young men, which led to a young dads group. Oh, that's wonderful, Ayla. Family and community culture tabs on the territory. Oh, sweet. So much goodness there. Yeah. Yeah. So look at all those good, wise things and fun too. Hey, when our people feel good about something, they'll come back. They'll volunteer and they'll take part. Yeah, and that's what change is all about. Hey, that's how we grow and move forward. Berry picking trips with community. Lovely. That's awesome. Yeah. So youth, men, working with elders, building up their dream community. That's so fun. Yeah. So these are all ideas. Fishing and hunting camps. Yeah. That help connect. Hey. And that's so important right now with the pandemic and the isolation that many of our families are facing, especially our young families. This idea of connection and getting people outside because we can be outside is so important right now. And so that might be gas cards to get people outside. So everyone can travel in their own vehicle or a big bus to travel with a few. Yeah, to just be outside on the water. Oh, wow. Horseback riding out on the land with youth. Oh, my goodness. That sounds wonderful. Yeah. And helps their spirit. Canoe workshops. Yeah, wonderful. So many good ideas here. Yeah. Yeah. And so that connection is medicine, as I mentioned earlier. And that helps us go through, find our own personal wellness, because everything is energy. If we have a lot of energy in our community where it's sad or depressed, because there's so many things that are out of control right now, that can really affect our well-being. Mm-hmm. So we really want to promote the connection. And what are the things that connect us to the land? Through making something with our hands is so important. Yeah, like gardening, like canoe workshops, playing Minecraft and creating something new. Yeah, fishing and hunting. These are really, really important things to do to help us move through our anxiety and find our wellness. That's the way our brain is built. And it helps us drop out of the thoughts that we have that help feed our anxiety and depression. And it helps us drop back into our whole body experience. Dene naturopath Nicole Redverse talks about our spirit house and how our spirit house, our body, works so hard to keep us whole and well. And when we have a lot of stress, we get stuck in our heads. I call it squirrel mind. Squirrel is really keeping us busy up there with those negative thoughts. And when we can drop down and work with our hands, like sewing, like doing those things, it helps us move through our anxiety, our fears. And it's a very important way to help us cope in a good way. Because when we have a lot of worry and stress, sometimes addictions show up, sometimes violence and anger shows up. So by tapping into our creativeness is so helpful. And so even if we're not able to come together, we can drop off sewing kits, we can drop off beading kits, or medicine making, or recipes, what to do with our veggies that we grew for the summer. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Canning, drying, preserving food. Yeah. So we're helping our family, but we're also helping others. Hey, cooking with the community via Zoom. Oh, that's so fun. We did a bannock making session and I learned how to make baked bannock, which is not something I've ever done before. It was like a focaccia bread. It was so good. Yeah. Okay, I only have 5 minutes left here. Just want to hold you up in the work that you're doing. Yeah, as helpers, it's important that you're listening to your people, that you're finding ways to offer different programs and projects to keep people engaged. Yeah, and then how are you showcasing all this good work? What are you doing to do that? Hand drumming, beautiful. Yeah, how are you sharing it back to the people? All these good things. What did people say? That's a good idea, is to share. We had 10 youth show up at the Minecraft, and this is what they did. And to showcase that, or lift up the youth to share their story and their experience. And that's part of the change making too, is having people share their experience. Why was this so good? And maybe the challenges of, maybe it didn't work out, and why. To share that too is just as important. And so thank you, Tabi Masai, for participating in the session here and sharing your wisdom and the good ideas, the activities you have with your people. Yeah. Okay. And so we're just going to wrap up here. Is there any final comments or anything you would like to share before we sign off here? Yeah, we just want to thank the Trickster, our transformers, for helping us link into that change energy. That change is good, and that change is possible, and that we harness that goodness and all the different things we do with our people, all the different programs and services. So thank you for participating today. Yeah, Tabi Masai. Thank you, Tabi Masai. Yeah.